can see. You guys see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so qualified to buy is basically the next step. You've had that call. You have determined that BANT is there, budget, authority, need, and timeline that qualifies them. It's still only 20% because chances are at that deal stage, it still needs to get pushed along to some other people. So it still is kind of a low probability. From there, it jumps up to 50% when the proposal is with a decision maker. Oh, wait, we have this out of order. Technical win. So that's when they agree everything you've done is necessary, everything you've showed them is all needed, and they're ready to pretty much move forward and try to figure out a way to close the deal. Proposal with decision maker, that is whoever you're presenting to, brings it to the decision maker, whoever that is, whether it's the owner of the company, some board of directors, some version of that. That's 50% because we know how owners and decision makers can be sometimes, especially when it comes to spending money. So while there's a technical win, it's still only 50% at that point because it's a 50% chance they say, no, we don't have the budget for that right now. And then contract sent, 80%. That means they've pretty much verbally agreed to what you're saying. We keep that at 80% because sometimes in the fine lines or in the description of the services or the length of the contract, for one reason or another, some people decide to back out, and that's why we have it up at 80, also down at 80. Is this all making sense to you guys?
Yes.
Perfect. Sierra and Angela? Yeah, perfect. I got a thumbs up there. And then, of course, our favorite, close one, 100%. We like to mark that in there so we can see that pipeline fill out, especially when it's a weighted version of the pipeline. And yeah, that's about it for the pipeline stages. Did you guys have any other questions on that? I'll take that as a no. Okay. Okay. So what we're going to do here is the bottom part, well, the top part, you're basically going to fill out what it is that your sales targets are. We split it out into a new sales target and an existing sales target. And then you have your different revenue sources. So generally for MSPs, we'll see that they have like a recurring revenue. Actually, this should not be there. So that would be like recurring. This would be hardware / software. This would be like a one-time fee, like a professional services, generally we call it, which is going to be the setup fees or project-based fees, so one-time stuff like that. And from here, you can kind of set targets around what you're looking to do each quarter, and that should get you to an overall target. The more data you have from historicals, the easier that will be because you'll be able to look at, say, every quarter's data for the last couple of years and say, okay, 25% of my revenue comes from recurring, 20% comes from hardware, 50% comes from professional or one-time fee based on project-based work, and then the rest is hardware, software, stuff like that. So you'll be able to kind of differentiate and understand where that revenue is all going to come from. And then down here at the bottom, this is kind of where you're just going to keep track of your pipeline. The most important part, well, not most important, it's all important. Basically here, you're going to be able to pick what it is, what deal stage it is. So let's start it from the beginning. Discovery call, let's say this is 10,000. Let's make it easy. So as you start to see this stuff fill in, we'll just say this is hardware. And as you see it fill in, some of this stuff will start calculating automatically. It'll also start calculating up here. So that way you know how much pipeline you have, how much more is needed to get to your target, and so on. Close date. We're going to close this one this quarter. And then next steps, this is kind of just to hold you accountable. It should be in your CRM, but sometimes it's good to just have it as a summary view here. So if you have, 20 pending deals in your pipeline, you can kind of just scroll through this sheet and see, okay, I owe this guy a follow-up, or we have a meeting coming up. It's kind of good to look at it from this view as well sometimes. And then lead source, that is to basically keep track of where your leads are coming from. Um, did you meet them at a local event? Was it a referral from a client? It's good to keep track of this stuff because then you'll be able to understand at some point what is really driving your business and where you need to do better. And that's really part of the growth strategy. So that's important. And then here we have some check boxes just to make sure all this stuff is also logged in your CRM.
Oh,
And then
also, Nick, could we change the CW to just in quoting? Because everybody uses different,
that's just connect wise, but yeah, it could be
yeah,
boom. So in
perfect.
CRM, yes. Did we quote it? Not yet, because it's still a discovery call and we don't actually know. Maybe we should move this along since I have an amount. Qualified to buy. So we know he's got 10,000 worth. I didn't quote it yet. Next steps. Quote this deal out.
Awesome.
Over
So,
to
so it was Sierra and Angela. You guys took a crack at it, right?
Yes. Yes.
How brave are you feeling? You want to share what you did?
Um, I'm, I mean, I don't know. Sierra, how do you feel?
I mean, I guess so. Sure.
Okay. So Nick, because thank you so much for running them through. I think we need to go over some of what they did because I think it'll make a lot more sense when they're working on it in real time. And I think for Lewis and for Stephen and potentially Brian, when he looks, it's going to be a lot easier in real time practical sense. So I'll let Nick stop sharing and then I'll have you guys go ahead and share your worksheet. And I think we have to give them extra points for being brave and sharing what they did because I know this is intimidating, especially the first time you do it.
100%, we give them extra points for that.
Extra points. I don't know what points those are going to, and I don't know what we're giving away, but man, you get points.
I like
All right.
points.
Um, let's see. Can you see my screen?
I
Yep.
do, and girl, you got some pipeline. All right. So
We went with what was like the bigger things we've been focusing on. And then I did add in the ones that are technically, we had two this week that kind of were closing. So I put those in because that makes me feel better. Than just putting a bunch of things as like discovery calls.
yeah, that's good.
That's
Okay,
where we're at currently.
Okay, so let's walk through it and do a true pipeline review because you guys have quite a bit over here. So do me a favor, go up to the goal setting. I just want to see what you guys did from a goal setting if you did it. All right, so the overall sales, you're looking at 125,000. We're looking at a new sales target of 100,000, and we did a revenue source A of cyber assessments, speaking and training, website accessibility, and cyber coaching. Do you have an amount that you would like to see from each of those? Or is it just sort of, this is our revenue source, we don't have it dialed in yet?
As of right now, no. And as I was saying, we haven't been able to actually talk with Pam about any of this. So this is just the stuff that I was able to quickly pull out of what we already actively had. And kind of like our own weird version of like a pipeline, which ours didn't break that out. So I don't know what her genuine goals are. This is just something that I know that we've loosely discussed. So these are all estimates from Angela and I's point of view.
That's great. But okay, but look at what you did, right? So the weighted pipeline based on your assessment of where you are, it gives you 50,000 and this is for the quarter. So you know you need to come up to at least another say almost like what 75,000 in order to hit it, or you need to increase the weight of each of the deals. So right there, you've sort of got that cheat sheet of what you need.
The
Absolutely.
sales target and the existing sales target, what does that mean? Because I think originally our actual for the quarter was like 100,000, not 125. So
Got it. So I'll
not
let
that makes a
Nick
huge
talk.
difference. We still need to do more, and I didn't put everything in, but we started.
Right. So I'll let Nick talk to how the numbers work, but essentially think of it as this is the existing sales target that we were going for, and this is the one that we're going to raise it up to, right? Are you there?
Yeah.
Oh, he's there.
Yeah, I thought we lost you there. Yeah, so new sales target would be new logos, new business, so net new clients to your organization, and then existing sales would be renewals or expansion on accounts. So if you have an account that you're already working with and they call you and say, hey, we need a bunch of hardware, or we want to sign up for some cyber assessments because they're already doing something else, that would add to your existing sales.
Okay, then we need to redo those numbers.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, I did that wrong, Nick. That is my fault. Can you do me a favor and instead of saying existing sales, let's put it as expansion sales, and that way we all are using the same terminology, because I completely told them the wrong thing yesterday. Sorry, guys. See, I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. I promise. It happens all the time, at least 20 a day.
Yeah. So, like I said, today I will have this in Excel for you guys if that's preferred.
Perfect.
I actually prefer Excel as well, but some of the stuff that this does is kind of cool because I can lock cells and stuff, and Excel doesn't necessarily do that as well. Anyways,
so lady, from when you're looking at the existing or from the expansion sales target, do you have any that you're expanding into right now or no?
There's a couple of possibilities in that might need to change.
Okay.
And I think I need to look at a couple of things, because there's some, and I guess that depends on like the quite definition, because it's sometimes where it's like we do a project, and when that project is completed, we then realize that more work needs to be done. And so you kind of go into now like a phase 2 project, which I guess that could kind of be a part of that like expansion versus new, because it is a client that we already have. And then of course, when you're doing like an assessment with someone, ideally you get them to come and join for like reoccurring and do continued work with you. So there's a couple of those as well. So those might need to be, that part might be changed. So those numbers at the top will probably all end up being modified now with the new definition.
No, of course. And that, again, my apologies. That was completely on me. I just tell him what to build and then he builds it. So that was my fault for not digesting it properly. Okay, so let's go back down and scroll to the organization name, and you guys can give a little bit of background. So if I'm looking at Promo Ventures and the contact is Leanne Davis, she's the CEO. Talk to me a little bit about that one and where we are with it.
So this one is a business contact that we have. It is a person that we've met multiple times and have had multiple conversations with now at this point about their cybersecurity. We have done already the discovery calls. We have talked about budget and what their exact needs are, and we set up a Panda doc and sent them the quote with the decision maker. So we are just now doing that follow-up of having them review it and trying to get that signed and closed.
Awesome. So when you say that the value is 6,000, is that 6,000 all in, or is that monthly recurring?
That would be 6,000 all in.
Got it. Okay. So for 6,000,
there's a couple of other ones on that, and that's where like I didn't add those in because that was like for the assessment, and then there are some like we also sent like a second quote of like some reoccurring things that would be monthly. But that's what the focus right now is, getting the assessment closed.
Got it. Okay. So for you in particular, and this actually works for a couple of other clients that or team members that I know are probably on this call, what I would do for these is I would loop those down as separate opportunities. So for example, you've got this one in particular, you know that this is the one that you want to focus on first, right? You understand that that is going to be the first thing that you close. And this is a lot of this has to do with just data hygiene and making sure that you're forecasting it properly. So what I would do if I were you and I was doing this for the first time, I would probably start going into having two opportunities listed under this account, one for the assessment and then one on a separate line just below with a different close date. But now you understand where your pipeline's actually coming from. And I think you'll find that you don't have as much to build through as you think you do, because you actually know that after the assessment comes the bigger investment. That bigger investment is worth $50,000. I'm just throwing it out there. But then you have when that should potentially close. Now you can actually start timing this out a little bit better so that you know when you have to have that meeting, when you have to have the deal for your internal process to hit the goal. But then you also know how to pump it through the sales cycle with them and you don't lack visibility or you don't lose visibility. Does that make sense the way I'm saying it?
Yeah, you know, because there's like with you saying that, there's like 4 of them that I'm looking at right now that I know that we've had conversations with on other like products and consumables that would be more of a monthly reoccurring that I didn't put in here. I just put like those like one-time contracts that were bigger that I know that we were like focusing on. And so I didn't put those smaller like reoccurring ones in. But obviously that goes to the pipeline. They just haven't been entered.
Right. So, and normally I would say, hey, if it's a tiny little deal, don't even worry about it. But because it's part of a bigger picture for the specific clients, I would say put it in. And that way you understand that, okay, when we close this one, that means we have to have a runway so we can close the next one and the next one and the next one.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So for that one specifically, and I'm spending extra time on it. Stephen, does this make sense to you too? Because I have a feeling you run into this a little bit as well.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
Okay. Yeah. So this one would be really, really appropriate. Like, you know, you do assessments and you charge for certain billings and you have to build in. So that's why I want to make sure you guys are doing it this way so you don't lose visibility. But okay, so say Promo Ventures, we know it's 6,000 and the quote is through PandaDocs, it is with the CEO. So talk to me about the next steps, because it says that the proposal is with the decision maker, but I'm not sure what the next steps are. Can you share that?
So we didn't fill that part out yet.
Mhm.
So that's where we need to put those in. As of right now, like I just know like the next steps with them, they were just at the conference that we were at last weekend.
Mhm.
So Pam physically saw her and was able to remind her that the quote was sent, and then reminder emails were sent out this week to her. And we did get a
Right.
notification from PandaDoc that it was viewed. So then
Got
it would
it.
be another follow-up schedule just being done of touching base. Do you have questions and what do you need to get this signed?
Bingo. Okay, perfect. So you said you literally just identified the next step. The next step is if and you know this better than I do because I wasn't on that call. Did the CEO say absolutely I want to do this, send over the agreement, or was it a preemptive, hey, we think you need this, we're going to send over the agreement? Do you know?
No, this was I want to do this. I want to do this with you.
Amazing.
Send me over like quote, like the fine detailed pricing instead of talking like generic numbers. And so that's what we got sent over.
Perfect. So what, again, this is what I would do. This is not necessarily the hard and fast rule, but this is what I would do. When it is sent over, the very, very first thing that needs to happen is a phone call as it is sent and say, hey, check your email, make sure you got it. If they don't answer the phone, it's an email that says, check your email, make sure you got it. When's a good time to review this, right?
Okay.
Okay, so it should already be in the calendar for that next step, as opposed to, oh yeah, we should probably follow up. This is just a process thing, guys, that it will help you immensely, and it'll help you understand that, okay, if the proposal's with the decision maker, we're going to get an answer by this date, or we're going to review the proposal together on this date.
So if I sent an email on Tuesday, basically saying that, when would you suggest the next follow-up be?
So I don't like waiting very long. On follow-ups, I typically what I want to do is, if I'm sending a proposal, I want to review it with them either the same day or the very next day, because they may have questions, or they might get sticker shock because they don't understand what the heck they're reading, right? So I want to be in control of that conversation every step of the way. So typically what I'll do is I'll say, hey, I'm going to send you a proposal. When are you free to review it? And I'll make sure it goes through. Because I get real controlling. Like, I'm super type A when it comes to this stuff. So, so if somebody's waiting on a proposal for me, I'm saying, hey, I'm about to send the proposal. Are you free for a quick chat and we'll review it? Or, hey, I'm going to send it tonight. I'm going to send over a calendar invite for tomorrow morning. Are you free at like 9:30 to review? So if that wasn't done, then I would say get it scheduled as soon as humanly possible, because you want to be able to say, hey, I have the answers. I know you're going to have some questions, and you're going to proactively say, I probably know the questions you're going to ask because this isn't my first rodeo. So let's go ahead and address these front, head on, because for $6,000, you should not be chasing. This should be a very quick, conversation. Do you understand? Do you have any questions? All right, time to close. Can I take your credit card? Let's process this. Granted, you don't have to be that aggressive, but it is fun sometimes.
Okay, thanks.
Does that sound okay for the way you guys do business, to just make that little tweak?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's move on to the next one, because I see a closed one. When did that close one?
So that closed one was done like the end of last week, beginning of this week. We officially got the quote signed over, and this one's actually for a printer lease. So now we're moving forward with getting them the leasing document.
Yeah.
But already basically signed the contract, so I counted that as a closed one.
I love that. Okay, so you counted it as a closed one. They did sign, or they didn't sign?
They did sign our agreement, but we haven't sent them all the leasing documents and things like that. But they already were told the price and everything, and they said yes.
Ooh, you know what? I don't know, Nick. That's a technicality. What do you think? Is that a closed one?
Say it again.
Is that a closed one? I don't know. I don't know if that's a closed one. So typically I am a hard ass when it comes to this. If I don't have all of the T's and C's crossed and dotted, and signing the contract is just one step, right? If it is it now, I'm asking you, because again, you know your business better than I do. Is the leasing documentation, is that part of onboarding, or is that part of closing the deal?
I would say for this particular case, when we're talking about this, that the leasing document, I would say, is more a part of onboarding than the deal at this point. Like, the contract that they signed with us is them agreeing to the product and the cost and everything. And then it just goes into doing the paperwork. Not for everything, so I can see why you say that, but for this instance of doing this one is the printers and not doing an assessment type thing, because now they closed, they finished the lease and are starting a new lease.
All right.
So they already know the process and everything like that. So
that's a
I
win.
will say for that one, I go with closed one.
All right. We'll allow this for a win. Okay. All right.
Let's just say the lease is the payment schedule.
Okay, there you go. So the next step on that one would be onboarding. And so you would fill that in, right? So you've already closed one. Now you're on to onboarding, and then it's up to you to define what that onboarding process is so that they have an amazing experience on the onboarding. But nice job on that close. That's really good. All right, so then we have the one underneath, and I am going line by line on this one, guys, because I want you all to see how to build this out. And I love the fact that you ladies did this and went through, and I'm very impressed with it. So well done.
Oh, I apologize. The first closed one, that one, like we actually have the money and we transferred over the information. So that one's not even the onboarding. That one's
done and done.
That one was
done.
That one's done. It was the beginning of the week. We had scheduled like the official like kickoff meeting of we received the money and we're giving you basically what you paid for and like explaining the service and the start for you. So that one's done. And then the other one, this one is the one that should be technically the closed one. Now that I understand everything, and that's the one that is doing the onboarding.
All right, Lewis and everyone else on the call, is this clarifying for you guys as well?
I mean, it makes sense.
It makes sense. All right, we'll go over some more. But what do you guys have questions about anything that the ladies have done on their pipeline?
No, I mean, it's real clear. For me, the part that throws me in because this is all so new, you know, when you're talking about the expansion sales target and the new sales target, it's, you know, that I'm not even sure what that is. And my pipeline right now, having just moved, is kind of,
it's non-existent right now. That's totally fine.
Yeah.
That is, yep, absolutely. That is totally fine. As long as you're moving the needle forward, right? Like I said, everyone's going to be at a different space and everyone's going to be in a different mode. You know, like Steve right now is in the space of, he's just trying to keep his head on straight because he just did a huge migration, and yeah, he's got some leads coming in, but some of his activity isn't going to be focused on sales right now, which is why we're having these conversations, because it's to reframe, right? For you, you're reinventing where you are in your geographic pull. So you have some coming from your old area, and you've actually gone away from some of your other clients. You essentially fired one, which is phenomenal for you because now you've got more time, but now it's time to focus. So when we look at this pipeline every week and you see, okay, I'm at a 0 on my pipeline, that means you need to take activity so that you can move that needle forward. That's going to tell you what your plan is for the next week of where you need to focus your energy. Does that make more sense?
No, it totally makes more sense. And I've been just trying to figure out where my activity should be, other than, you know, going to BNI meetings and getting on the horn and, you know, trying to put feelers out there, but it doesn't feel systematic yet.
No, yeah, not yet from what I'm hearing, but we'll get there. This is just to measure how you're moving the deals through. We'll start talking top of funnel here as soon as we are better at filling out the form. Okay. All right, ladies, I want to look at that pipeline one more time because I want to get to the next line.
Sorry.
You thought you were done, huh?
If I could add to that, Lewis, that spreadsheet is also to help you to understand where you should be spending your time each week, right? So if you have a pipeline that looks like this and you know you have 6 or 7 meetings scheduled for that week related to those pipelines, then you know how much time you can spend doing other stuff such as business development. So this is also to kind of keep your head on straight and to make sure that you are, I guess it's part of time management, right? So you know exactly how much extra time you have to do business development. And this is also a reminder of what you need to do to keep moving these along. So
nicely said.
Time management, what's that?
Well, that's what we're here for. That's what like I said, this is going to start being your barometer of hey, we need, like, you know, for Angela and Sierra, what they're going to be looking at is, man, we need to come up with $100,000 in pipeline. How reasonable is that? And I don't want to change the goal, but maybe we need to change the activity of what we're doing to drive that focus, right? You know, and like you said, Lewis, if you don't know how to set that goal, put the historical data of where you need to be to sustain the cost of running your business, and then uplift it by 5%. Because again, what we're looking at is we're just looking to move the needle, and then we can look at it a little bit more strategically later on. But what we're trying to do right now is systematize the sales conversation so that as you get closer and as you start seeing what those next steps are, and as you start getting better at forecasting, it's going to make things way easier to understand A, where your time goes, B, where your focus goes, and C, what you need to do to move the needle and to reach the goals. But we don't move the goals, or we don't adjust the goals down. We just move what we're doing.
Okay. So I
Okay.
just also figure out the cost of running my business.
Absolutely. And that's going to be a big one. In fact, you know what? I'm not volunteering you, Steve, but I think one thing that he's very good at is understanding his metrics. So it would not be a horrible idea for all of you to start networking together. I know you all have your emails, and we have the platform that we are doing final tests on so that we can actually do chats. But understanding what the cost of running your business, we can do additional trainings, but he may be able to offer you some assistance as well.
Great.
Yep.
Yeah, keeping a finger on that pulse is super important because the cost has just been going up. We had an increase in cost of 300% over a total of our vendors, and that's dramatic. We had to actually send out an email saying we had to increase our prices, which we probably should have done a long time ago or every year just because of inflation. But it's something that we've never done before. And it was with 600 clients. It's a difficult procedure, but we pulled it off in 3 months. But yeah, you definitely gotta keep an eye on that because that's super important because it could get out of hand pretty quickly.
Absolutely. And you're very good at knowing those numbers, which I'm very impressed with. So that's a good, might be something for you to also, not to plug, but I am going to plug. He, as in Steven, as in the person just talking, has it's a nonprofit, right? With with some ways of how to manage an MSP business and how to sort of MSP better from a sales and marketing approach. You got me, but from that, it's a nice solution that he has. So absolutely network with one another. Okay, ladies, I'm going back to you. So if I go to the next line, what am I looking at? Because I see qualified to buy, which means that you guys had an initial conversation. You think they would be a really good target, but I don't have next steps. So talk to me about that one.
So this one, as you said, we had the initial conversation. We kind of discussed that, like what their needs were and what their budgets were and things like that. Mm-hmm. And they just weren't ready at that time. They had a lot of stuff going on to move forward, and they kind of wanted to do like a follow-up in like another month or two.
Got it. So
or they officially did like the proposal because they weren't ready to get started yet. But they were interested and they wanted it and they want to do it with us, but they weren't ready to be like, give me the invoice and take my money yet.
Got it. Okay. So then the close date on this one would be what? If they're not ready?
I'd have to double check our notes on it, but I believe for this one, it was probably a follow-up beginning of October.
Okay.
So I'll put close date maybe like mid-October, unless they, again, for whatever reason, are like, no, we need to push it out longer. But
got it. So if they're pushing it out longer, let me ask you a question. And this, I'm not putting you on the spot. I really like when I say you guys earned points, you earn points. So when they are pushing it out and they're saying, oh, okay, we need to wait, what happens if they wait?
I mean, it's hard because when we're talking about cybersecurity, we don't want to lean too heavily on like the scare tactic of saying it just leaves yourself open longer for risk. But I mean, that would be the argument of, what happens by you waiting.
Well, so why don't you want to lean on that? Is it just because it feels icky like a used car salesman, or is there
It's twofold. One, it's something that is already very heavily done. And
Mhm.
when like you kind of are doing that initial like meeting and we do like the discovery call, we say, hey, like here's all the things that we think that you need. And they go, well, why do we need this? We're already kind of doing like that. Well, because you're at risk and you could be hacked, and here's all the scary statistics. They go, great, okay, I do really need to do this. So then just keep following up going, you're at risk, you're at risk. It makes it, one, it feels icky, and two, it's, I don't know, it just doesn't seem like it makes it almost lose a little bit when you keep being told you're at risk
You
until it
are
actually happens.
you
I
are
get that too a lot too, and it is difficult, to kind of put a little pressure. I just point them to the news because obviously the news always has something. And recently, there's been a really big hack at MGM. I'm sure you guys heard of it. And now Caesars is paying $15 million in ransomware attacks. And let me remind you, Caesar is where we have a hacker convention every year,
yeah.
where 30,000 hackers come together, and we just came back from it, right? Um, and their stuff is always under pressure, and for them to get ransom, they weren't down as much as MGM, but they were still ransom, which is they're going to be fine on their what do you call their loss with the
Mhm.
SEC. So those things are real, and not to say that you're putting pressure like us, the used car salesman. It's just letting them know, like, say, hey, you know what? Just letting you know that this attack just happened. It's a huge company, and your information could be on there if you've been to Caesars, but just letting you know that that stuff is out there. This is real. We want to make sure you guys are taken care of. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah.
And both of you are 100% correct. I love that you brought up the Caesars thing because one in my former life I was helping be the eye in the sky for them. So
Mm,
I been very close to this story. So
mm-hmm.
I love it. But okay, so I want to take exactly what you guys are talking about, right? Because Steve's right. You should absolutely leverage current events and make what we want to do every time we're having these conversations. We want to make it more human, and we want to make sure that they're understanding that this isn't just happening to the large companies. This is happening everywhere. But a step further, and yet, right? We want to go a step further. And now that we've humanized it and we've said it's happening right now, just take a look at XYZ. Now we want to do a full circle and bring it back and say, how would this affect you if you got hit? Because then it's less of you. If you can come through as a consultant and you're saying, I want to know the effect of what this would have, of what would happen if you don't get this fixed, it's going to do two things. One, you won't have to say it as much. And two, they're going to start selling themselves. And then when you're having that conversation, when you're following up at the first week of October, you are now able to say, well, wait a minute, remember, if you want to push it back, that's fine. But let me remind you, you said you needed this because if you didn't get it done, this is what's going to happen. Has that changed? And it's a very different conversation than just reminding them that this is scary.
Yeah. Asking those questions, I think, is spot on too. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we had a customer too that we recently got because of the issues with Beverly Hills doctors, and we work with a lot of doctors, and there's a lot of press and news saying that there is a lot of information being sold on the internet with pictures, private pictures, and these are augmentations and things like that are being leaked, and these are high profile people. And these doctors and surgeons they're getting scared because like literally it's happening, and not necessarily we were selling it. It was just like, yeah, this is happening. They're calling me. They're knocking down my door because they know, like, how do we protect ourselves? How do we make sure that we stay secure? So you have to come off as a leader in that that field that you're in. And so if you work those channels, they come to you. It's kind of cool.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So when you're looking at this pipeline and you're thinking about kind of what they said, is there anything, and I'm not challenging you from a I think you did anything wrong. I'm just saying, let's fine tune the message a bit. So if you're thinking back on that initial conversation now where they said, oh, I want to revisit this in October, what can you do now in that meeting that you weren't potentially going to do already?
Well, I know part of the reason they were wanting to wait is, I mean, it is a little bit of like a small like time commitment where we need you to hop on calls with us and to like assist with doing like the assessment. So I know that she was saying that, you know, she had too much on her plate right now to like properly invest the time in it. So now it's just that, you know, that following up with her and then also being like, how much longer can you afford to wait and
Yes.
going that route?
Bye, Nick. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely going that route. But do you think that that initial question of what would it cost you if you don't get this done or if you continue to wait? If you already had that in your back pocket and she said, man, I really just don't have the time. At that point, you're like, okay, I get it. And I'm not trying to be pushy, but you said this would happen. Wouldn't that cost you more than the 3 hours that it would take to dedicate to this? Or do you have somebody else that you could put on this to get us the answers that we need?
Yeah.
Would is that because again, it's using her, I hate saying it's being manipulative. I know it's being manipulative, but it's basically using her words against her, right? Where she's saying, well, I'm just busy. I don't have time to do this, but I really need to do this. It's making her understand you came to us. You need this service. You said you needed it, and you said that this is what it was going to cost you if you don't move forward. If that's the case, is it going to be worth waiting some more? Or is this something that would put you out of business? Or, the 3 hours that would cost you $250 an hour, is it going to cost you thousands of dollars if you wait? Because once you talk to a CEO or somebody that is performing against that bottom line, and they now have to look at, oh man, what's the loss, calculation. It's like I said, it's a very different conversation. So I would encourage you, like, I definitely want to see how that conversation goes in the first week of October and see if it pushes forward.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think next steps on that one would absolutely be, make sure that you rephrase the question, have her sell herself all over again and put it in HubSpot that way so that you remember to do that. And then we're almost done, guys. I know we only have 10 minutes, so I'm going to just do one more with you and make sure that you guys get what you need to out of this pipeline review. Typically, the way that this will flow, everyone, is I'm not going to do every single line by line by line with everyone because Lord knows you all do not have time for that. But this is just so that you guys get used to doing it. And what we'll do is we'll start getting really good at that sort of gut check. On the qualified to buy on that one, by the way, ladies, let's look at the drop down real quick. Did she see any sort of proposal yet or no?
No, not a formal proposal.
Okay. And if she's qualified to buy, I think you're right in putting qualified to buy. I think you're 100% right on that. But I would not typically look at it as a 20%. I think you still have some sales to do on that. And so if there was a way to put it down to 15%, I probably would. I think you're just past a discovery call, if I'm being honest. What do you guys think?
I think a little, I don't know. I think the 20% is honestly probably pretty close
Pretty
there.
well.
I can see where you're saying like maybe like the 15, because I do think it needs a little bit more moving, but we have had a couple of conversations with her regarding it. It's just been like the timing. So now we have to finally hit like that hard close stage.
Awesome. Okay. All right. If like I said, if you can justify it, I'm down. I just want to make sure that we're on the same page with it. It just needs a little, it's my technical term. It needs a little zhuzhing. We need to zhuzh it a little bit more, right? Okay. So one more, I'm going to just go to supplier diversity, because that's a new role that I haven't seen in a while. So it's another accessibility one. and it is worth $20,000, and we've got a discovery call scheduled. Where did that lead come from?
So this was someone that we met at a conference. We talked with them regarding the accessibility. He is in the role of supplier diversity. So he is not the final decision maker. He is not the one that can officially sign the contract, but we have had conversations with him regarding this. So now it's setting up the meeting with him, with someone from his team that would actually be able to be the decision maker.
Got it. Okay.
With his support to carry on with it. So that's why we have like discovery. It's one of those weird, because it's that we have already talked with him, but we aren't at the position where we haven't found the buyer yet. And so he's helping us get into contact with the right department that would actually be the ones that would be buying and using this.
Got it. So he's your champion. So basically, if you were to make him look really, really good at his job, he would love you forever, right?
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. All right. So that's an interesting one. Now that amount is higher and the discovery call is scheduled. So what are they looking at purchasing? If he had his druthers, right, and he was just asking dad for the keys to the car, and he said, give me the keys, I want to drive this around, what would he actually be getting from you?
So that's the website accessibility. So it's assist with making sure that their website is ADA compliant.
Okay.
So that is it's a product, and it's priced out yearly. So that one also has the potential of yearly being a renewal.
Got it. Okay. So it's a 20,000 annual, or it's a 20,000 first year, and then next year would be something less.
I believe it is the 20,000 is an approximate, because that also depends on the exact program that they want and exactly how big all of their sites are, which that until you actually get talking with like the IT department in the company, you don't get all those answers. But it would be approximately like the 20,000 renewal annually.
Perfect. Okay. So what I would say on this one specifically, right, is because he's your champion and your next steps are a little unclear because you're waiting for him to make that connection. How can you make it absolutely impossible for him not to set that meeting up? If you make him look amazing and you're giving him resources and you're offering something to make it impossible to not set that meeting up, because that's a nice renewal, right? Like it's sort of a one time, you're double checking, you've got some basic maintenance. That ain't bad, right? Like if you could do like 10 of those a month, that'd be great.
Ideally that'd be the goal. Yes.
Right. Exactly. So how do we streamline that so that when your entry level is a little bit lower than the decision maker, how do we make it absolutely impossible for him not to get the decision maker on the phone?
Okay.
Right. So some sort of an incentive, not necessarily a discount, but something that's going to make him look good, right? Like, so, hey, I just saw this in the news. I think that this is really appropriate for you. I would share this with your, with your higher ups. So it's almost like thought leadership, like you're making him look good. And then, hey, I had an idea, or maybe even offer a lunch and learn, like, hey, no pressure, but we'd love to get you guys a cup of coffee to have this presentation, something that's going to get their attention. Again, not a sales tactic, but something that's going to make him look good. We want to make sure if we're dealing with a champion that is not the decision maker, we want to arm them to look really good in front of their bosses so that they can literally escort us in and know that we're going to make them look good every step of the way.
Yeah.
So give it a little bit of thought on maybe something you could offer them or offer him. And then just sort of put that as the next step, and then we can come back to it. But really, really nice job on this initial pipeline. Have you guys done one like this before?
Not exactly like where like you have it all being like weighted and everything, but we did have like a loose one where we had like the list of like who the people were, what the product was, what the like proposal was going to be, and kind of like how close to closing did we actually think we were.
Nice. Okay. All right. So it's a good first one for sure. everybody else on the call, because I know we only have 3 more minutes. How, and thank you so much for letting me put you guys on the spot. I know that it felt like there's a magnifying glass, so thank you for being good sports. Who has questions, comments, concerns about this type of format? Or just input?
I may have a question. So I just got the spreadsheet today, so I'm like I was filling it out as we were talking. So the amount you said you want the yearly, right? The yearly contract. Would you
Yep.
want to separate that out between like because a lot of times we'll do a contract, but they'll also need a lot of like one-time hardware.
Project.
Do we
Mhm.
project? Yeah, sorry. Do we put that in a separate column, or what do we just keep it in the same column, or how do we
It depends, right? So here's my question back to you, because again, everybody's business is a little bit different.
Yeah.
Typical of businesses more that are more structured like yours, if it is project and annual, but it's going to close at the same time, I would just say add it all together in one line item, and because you're going to break it down into your inside of your in your PSA anyways. So or your CRM anyhow. So
Mhm.
that's not as important. If it's going to close at a different time, or if it is a separate project, I would do exactly what I said earlier with the Triumph ladies, is put it on a separate line as a separate opportunity. It may close in a similar time frame, but it may require a separate document, a separate contract, a separate SOW.
Okay. So we just do a separate line item for that. We'll say
I would,
like one
yeah, if it,
MSP and then one network quote or something. Okay.
yeah, I would, if it's going to require a different statement of work, I 100% would.
Okay.
Because
That's easy.
it's a different sales cycle. Even though it's the same client, it's a different sales cycle. And you're going to actually start
Yeah.
seeing too, because as you map your account management deals, because not everybody is going to be doing expansion and new sales. Some of you may be focusing on account management, where some of you are focusing on new sales coming in. So when that happens, absolutely different line items. Also, one other thing that I would say, and I know that you all are right now, it's a shared effort, right? Your pipeline is a shared effort. But when you start getting into a systematic sales team and you have different people in a role and you're mapping it out, what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to have a pipeline sheet per rep. And it's very interesting how it works, because when you start seeing that per rep, like for example, Sierra, if some of these deals are just yours, pop it on another sheet inside of that workbook, and then allow Angela to have her separate sheet where she's tracking her stuff, because it allows for a little bit more gamification. It allows to understand who's doing what from a conversion standpoint. So it may be Angela's doing a really, really good job from point A to B to C, but something's dropping off from XYZ. Conversely, you're doing a really good job of closing, but maybe some of the opening stuff is missing, right? So you'll start being able to monitor that if you start tracking it per rep. Just one more thing to do. All right,
Okay.
guys. Any other questions or any other guidance needed on this? You all did a really good job of a first attempt. I mean, well done. My apologies for giving you guys the wrong definition on that one column. I feel bad. But we'll be able to tighten that up a little bit moving forward.
I'm sorry, what column was that?
Oh, it was the expansion one, because so Nick put in existing business, and me thinking sales management hat as opposed to CRO hat. I'm thinking, oh, okay, it's the existing target, and then this is what the uplift is going to be to new sales target. He meant it as existing business expansion, so I'm going to have him rename it for expansion and renewals, so that
Okay.
it's very clear.
Okay, so do we just transfer that to the new spreadsheet, or how does that work?
Transfer what?
Oh, sorry, the the name, I guess, or the whatever we call it, our target, or
Yeah, so your target will go to the new one, the new spreadsheet
Okay.
that you're working off of. And then the existing is just your expansion and your renewal target. So if you have a separate target for both, say you've got account management and new sales all on one sheet, that's how you would map it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Make more sense?
Yeah, maybe I'll have you look at my homework and see.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And
Okay.
Lewis,
Once it's all done.
send me yours too, because we're gonna go over it, and I'm gonna spend some time with you guys individually to do this. You know, luckily again, you guys are in the beta program, so I get to spend a little bit more time one-on-one with you guys. But you know, and you'll help me understand how to explain this out better so that
Right.
people may not need one-on-ones with me for it. So I appreciate the feedback too. I'm gonna be learning from you guys too.
Right. Okay. Sounds good.
All right, guys, have a great night. Enjoy your Friday. If you have questions, shoot them at me, shoot them at Nick. We'll start having more CyberSells crew coming on to these calls, so you'll get to meet the whole team. But otherwise, really, really good week for the first week. I really enjoyed you guys playing all in.
All right. Sounds good.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Alex.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.